This call is now being recorded.
Hey, this is Randy doing my little jailhouse podcast here. It's Saturday, November 13th, 2021, and yeah, I'm having a rough day. I don't know. Some days are harder than others, and sometimes just the nonsense around me gets to me. And then I pick up the paper and it gets worse because it's like, I don't know what kind of world we live in, but, you know, the important stuff in the paper today was that Paris Hilton apparently got married, and, you know, and it's documented through her new little Paris in Love reality show. You know, just what we need, another reality show that details her road to the altar. So, you know, important stuff, just like billionaires taking millionaires into space because, you know, this planet is so screwed up. Let's go and you know, while there's starving people here, let's spend, you know, billions of dollars going into finding another planet that that humanity can ruin, I guess. So, I don't know. Then there's this story in Bartow, Florida. This Sergeant Sean Speakman of the Polk County Sheriff's Office the other day, on Thursday, I think, he shot and killed this woman, Jasirium Rivera or something like that, 24-year-old woman who had threatened him with a shovel. And I'm not saying, I don't know the story and who knows, but, you know, he shot her 4 times. I guess that's what it took to stop her from hitting him with the shovel. You know, he had to make sure. I don't know. It sounds a little extreme. And the truth is, we'll probably never know because, you know, this whole officer body cam thing is a joke. At least down here, the sheriff's offices generally aren't required to even wear them. You know, it's really only the city police. So I doubt there's even a body cam video. And this officer was on leave during an investigation. But, you know, let's face it, nothing's going to happen. That's just kind of what's going on. This Kyle Rittenhouse, apparently the jury is going to be given the chance to have lesser charges, I guess second-degree intentional homicide or first-degree reckless homicide. So I guess that's better for him. I didn't really get into it. I wasn't that interested in reading it, you know. But it's frustrating because, you know, when I see the stuff I see every day, and not that everyone's innocent, but, you know, the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution gives everyone the right to assistance of counsel. And that's really a joke because any court-appointed counsel is really an extension of the prosecution. You know, they're not really there to help anyone. They're there to help you get convicted. And that's what's going on. So, you know, unless you have some media coverage like a Rittenhouse case or any of these other cases, a George Floyd type case, you know, it's not worth it for any attorney to represent you. So that's what's gone on with me. They've fabricated such a, you know, clusterfuck of a case, and part of my French there, but, you know, they fabricated such a wacky case that, you know, I couldn't never afford an attorney to do what I need to do, and even if I could, you know, they, who knows if they would do anything. So these court-appointed attorneys, really, they have, the public defender's office has hundreds of cases, so they're not interested in going to trial. They want you to take a plea offer and just get that case off their desk. That's what happens. They're literally overwhelmed. And then what happens is, if you've got a conflict of interest with the public defender's office, they give you regional counsel, which is just kind of a backup public defender's office. And then if there's a conflict there, you get one of these private attorneys who's appointed by the court. They call it their wheel. They give you someone off the wheel, which is another crock because they're really just giving you someone, at least in my case, someone that's best suited to screw you. So, in Lee County, the issue was I had a conflict of interest with the public defender's office. So then they pushed me to regional counsel and discovered there was a conflict of interest there. And then I was given a guy named Sabu Gorgon, who has got to be one of the most evil men I've ever met. Sabu Gorgon is an attorney out of Naples, Florida. And I'm going to spell his name out because anyone should be aware of this guy. It's Sebouh, and his last name is Gourjin. Sabu Gorgon was appointed to my to defend me. And I did everything I could to get rid of him because this guy was just nasty towards me. He was doing nothing. I argued that there was a conflict of interest. And of course, you're going to, you won't be surprised to hear that he was an ex-prosecutor, so he used to work for the state attorney. Him and the prosecutor were old buddies. They used to be colleagues. So now he's standing on the other side. It's supposed to be helping me. So I tried to get rid of him because he called me stupid, an idiot, called me retarded, asked me if I loved my wife or just lusted over her, all kinds of stuff like that. And but then I had discovered something that violated Florida law, because Florida law says that any private attorney can't be affiliated with the co-defendant's private attorney. So in my case, this Joel Soucy guy was my co-defendant, and he had an attorney named Stephen Smith. Well, it turned out that Stephen Smith and Stephen Smith and Sabu Gorgon actually shared an office. They're basically partners. They were on the same lease. They had the same phone number, the same business phone number. This is all documented. So when you call Stephen Smith's office, you could either get Joel Soucy or Stephen Smith. These guys were definitely affiliated, all right? So I argued to the court that in addition to my irreconcilable differences with this guy and these nasty things that he said to me, and the fact that he's doing nothing, that we have a conflict because of the our attorney, because of the co-defendant's attorney. Well, you could read the transcripts. It's all in my appeal. They denied it, of course. I also felt that he was part of an extortion towards me because, Florida law says extortion, the definition is whoever either verbally or by written or printed communications maliciously threatens to accuse another of a crime or offense with intent to compel that person so threatened or any other person to do any act or refrain from doing any act against his or her will shall be guilty of a felony in the second degree. So a felony in the second degree is actually punishable by up to 15 years. And on July 19, 2017, Sabu Gorgon handed me an email from the state attorney, James Miller, and it basically said that I was being offered 20 years in prison followed by 5 years probation. And if I turned it down, they were going to arrest my wife, they were going to charge my wife, and then they were going to file RICO and RICO conspiracy charges against me. So I would consider that the threat to accuse another of a crime or offense. So in other words, if I didn't do it, they were going to add more charges and charge my wife. And I brought it to the court's attention. They said there was no wrongdoing there. I argued prosecutorial misconduct. I did all of that. The state never made good on their promise because, I kind of called out Mr. Miller, the prosecutor. I don't think he expected Gorgon to be so stupid as to actually physically hand me that email, and because I made copies of it. Usually they make these threats verbally, and it happens all the time. Do this. If he doesn't take the deal, we're going to do this, and we're going to, add this, and we're going to. So this extortion game happens all the time, but they're never dumb enough to put it in writing. Because if it's verbal, we already know they're going to lie about it. So, this court-appointed attorney definitely participated in it, right? So I felt that I had no other choice because the court wouldn't give me another attorney, so I had to represent myself for a good part of the pre-trial and trial proceedings. Now, this is another interesting thing. People seem to think that these private attorneys or the PDs or stuff, well, not the public defenders, but the private attorneys, they seem to think that they're pro bono, that they don't get paid. No, that's not at all the case. Now, they do get a flat fee per felony of $935, right, per felony, with a maximum of $15,000 for a non-death penalty case, right, which was my case, which I kind of wish it was a death penalty because, quite honestly, I'd probably take a lethal injection tomorrow just to avoid being in this place another day. And I know that might sound morbid, and I'm not suicidal, but this is just the most miserable experience. But anyway, the point is, his limit to get paid on my case was $15,000. Well, let me tell you this. Mr. Gorgon was awarded by the court $110,000 in attorney's fees to represent me when I represented myself most of the time. Now, he was on as standby counsel for me. So when I was representing myself, the judges said, well, we're going to make him standby counsel. Now, two different judges, Judge Margaret Steinbeck, prohibited Gorgon from helping me at all during the pretrial process. And then Judge Richards took over, Judge George Richards took over, and also prohibited him, saying he's not allowed to help with subpoenas, he's not allowed to do this, he's not allowed to do that. So more than 1,000 hours from Sabu Gorgin's invoices on my case were for times and dates that he was prohibited from helping me. So the court actually paid him over 1,000 hours, $110,000. So tens of thousands of dollars this man was paid, but he was not allowed to help me. So I argued that that violated my Sixth Amendment right to assistance of counsel. Of course, the appellate court denied it. They don't see an issue. You know, I also talked about the fact that Gorgin just he didn't do a lot of things. He actually failed to. Well, I argued that he shared confidential information. He violated attorney-client privilege by sharing conversations that I had with him with the state and in front of one of the state's witness, as proven in one of the depositions. So I went back to the court. I said, hey, I just discovered this. I need replacement counsel, and they denied me the Nelson hearing. So they didn't even give me a hearing on it, which, again, I argued, should have been done. But anyway. So this whole thing is crazy, but Sabu Gorgin got paid a ton of money, and this happens all the time. So how did he get paid $110,000 when the maximum was $15,000? And why was James Miller at the hearings after I got convicted? He was at the hearings to ensure that Sabu got that money. Now, my take on it is Sabu was breaking off either the judges or Miller. He was giving everyone a piece of the action because the state, he got $110,000, a ton of free money, and I'm going to say he was sharing it with Miller, maybe sharing it with the judges. He was sharing it with someone, because why did Miller have such an interest in making sure Sabu Gorgin got paid all this money when he did nothing for me? Sabu Gorgin traveled to New Hampshire to interview Joel Soucy. He traveled to California to interview a witness who really had nothing to do with my case. And it just so happened that he interviewed this witness in California in the same town he grew up in, the same town that his parents live in. So he got paid to have a free trip home to hang out with mommy and daddy and his sister, and he got paid for it. Yet this guy did not do a single deposition or interview a single alleged victim, all who worked in the same courthouse he worked in every day. And that includes Linda Doggett, the clerk of court. That includes Judge Joseph Fuller. That includes Judge John Duryea. That includes, every other alleged victim that lived in Lee County and in the general vicinity of the courthouse. So he's traveling all over the state of Florida, all over the country, getting free trips home, and the state's paying for this. So not only are they compensating the $110,000, they're also reimbursing his travel fees. And this guy is refused to even interview or depose a single alleged victim who claimed that I had done something to them. So this is insane. And the whole system is screwed up. So I need to know really what happened, and I really wish someone would take interest and help me investigate this. And I've been locked up for 5.5 years. I don't have the money to pay $1 million to an attorney. So I just pray that someone can get the word out, and maybe we can get some media coverage and someone to take a look at this, because it's all in black and white. It's all in my appeal, but the appellate court doesn't care. They're all friends. These judges all hang out. So it doesn't matter. And then at trial, these victims, like Linda Doggett, goes and says that when she saw these federal arrest warrants that Joel Soucy signed, she was scared, and she put Joel Soucy's picture on her refrigerator because her daughters, needed to be aware just in case he showed up at the house. Do you realize what a lie this is? And these judges, Duryea and Fuller, going out there and saying, well, we thought they were real arrest warrants. We were really scared. You thought they were real arrest warrants? Really? They weren't signed by a federal judge, and they weren't filed into a federal court. And Linda Doggett's afraid of Joel Soucy showing up at her house when the only way she knew what Joel Soucy looked like was through his mugshot, which meant he was in custody. So how were you afraid of this guy showing up at your house when you didn't even know who he was until he was in custody? Come on, man. And then there's a letter to the investigator, Robert Nichols, from the U.S. attorney, right? The U.S. attorney in the Middle District, this guy Jesus Casas, right? So Mr. Casas sends a letter saying those federal warrants were never filed in our court, right? So those federal warrants, proposed warrants by Susie from the Middle District, were not filed in their court. So if Casas already said that these weren't filed anywhere in the beginning of the investigation, why would anyone be worried? They knew they weren't real. They knew they weren't filed anywhere. Yet they put on this show for the jury and made it sound like, well, they really look legit. We didn't know. No. And guess what? This U.S. Attorney Jesus Casas from the Middle District, I'm going to let you take a guess where he used to work. You ready? The Lee County prosecutor, the 20th Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office. Yes, he used to work with them too. Just like Robert Foley, who was the ex-FBI guy who became a prosecutor. You starting to see what's going on here? My mother starts to, when I say inside job, she thinks it sounds a little bit too, like a conspiracy theory type thing, but
you have 1 minute remaining.
And then my mother knows it. Don't get me wrong. You'll hear from her too because she gets fired up over this too. But the point is, all these people, Sabu Gorgon, Jesus Casas, Robert Foley, Robert Nichols, James Miller, Judge Michael Brown from Naples, they all used to work for the Lee County State Attorney's Office. They are all in bed together. This is all one big happy family, and they came together with all their power and resources, and they just slammed me and fabricated a case that took my life away. But I'm not done, so I guess I'm going to have to continue this in the next call. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for using GTL.